Perfect. So yeah, the response was positive overall, just people saying thank you. Um, just very appreciative. Thank you for taking the time to speak to an actual specialist in binge eating. She had some great pointers and explained very well the reasoning why we binge and how to go around it. Doing doing God work. Can't wait for the next one. Um, Very satisfying. But yeah, people like wrote paragraphs like thanking it. So it's not going unnoticed and it's highly appreciated. So thank you.
Well, look, I have been there, and when I was there, there was no like social media to connect with other people. I thought I was like the only person in the world who did this, and it was so deeply shameful that to have the ability to reach other people now and to like mitigate that shame and let them know not to sound like a chat GPT chat box, but like you're not alone.
Right.
You're not alone. It's a human thing. It's not a woman's thing. It's not a man's thing. It's a human thing. And so many people struggle. And there's a reason for that. And there's a reason out. And the one thing that I am really adamant about is this idea that you're going to have to struggle forever. I can't tell you how many people have been like, I'm going to have to struggle forever. I know that. I'm like,
A lot of people say that.
no, no.
And it's yeah,
You are not going to have to struggle forever because once you get to the roots of why you're doing what you're doing and you change the way you relate to yourself, those roots are gone. It's not something you have to struggle with at all.
100%. And to your point, social media, on one hand, it's provided a space for some negativity and some unfortunate things, but on the other hand, too, it's opened the door for a lot of connectivity. So it's been a blessing in this respect.
Yeah, much more so the latter. So, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Like if I could choose personally whether to live in a time you know, of history with or without it, I would choose with it, even though that it comes with baggage. So I'm
Yeah.
excited for this one. I literally just texted in the Discord. I was like, about to have the second session with Dr. Nina. Anyone have some last minute questions or thoughts? And I have a
Mhm.
list of questions here, but I just felt like that would be a great way to kind of kick it off. Just like
Yeah,
someone's last minute off of the head thing. Let's get right into that.
absolutely.
Um, cool. So this one is, why is it easier for some people to get out of the binge restrict cycle and almost impossible for others?
Well, it depends on why they're binging and restricting. So if it's more like they've been binging because of diet mentality, if they're binging because they are actually, let me just back up and say this. Some people say it's easier. They'll be like, oh, yeah, like I just put my mind to it. And then, oh my God, it was so, like, I'm being a little facetious, but I've seen that where people are like, oh, yeah, no big deal. I just changed my mindset and then I stopped.
Right.
Well, don't believe them, first of all. Um, Often people present something that is not the case. So be highly suspicious of someone who says, oh, it was so easy for me, I just stopped. Because either they're lying to you or to themselves, or they weren't actually binging. Because I've heard people say they binge and they're not binging, they're maybe just overeating, right? So
Gotcha.
binging is a very specific experience. It's horrible, it's frenzied, it's awful, it's painful. It's like wanting to disappear and, and from yourself in and focused on food and I don't need to tell you guys what it feels like. I'm just saying, you know what it feels like. But overeating is different. So if someone says, it was easy for me, then maybe they weren't binging, maybe they were overeating. And maybe the reason for that was not so deep.
Gotcha. Okay, that's great. And that spills into another kind of discussion. that we've had is, what do you guys kind of determine as a binge? Someone posed that question, and it was an interesting topic. So,
Oh, oh,
binging
oh,
versus overeating, I want to hear your kind of
okay.
definitions.
So my very first book, Food for Thought, which is like an academic crossover book, I wrote it for clinicians and other analysts and psychologists and therapists, but I also wanted to make it um, accessible for everybody to read. So The Binge Cure is like the mainstream book. This is my first book, so it's an academic crossover, and I start with somebody's, it's not only on binge eating, it's on all eating disorders, but I start with this patient wrote me her binge. This is a binge. This is what she wrote. This is an email. She said, just checking in, I wanted to write a list of what I ate at 4 o'clock. And by the way, I hope this doesn't trigger anyone, but maybe you'll just feel seen. Um, So she said, a full-size candy bar, a gallon of ice cream, a small chocolate cake, yuck, a bowl of pasta and vegetables with marinara and olive oil, a box of chocolate chip cookies. Earlier I snuck food. And then she wrote what she had the day before: 4 bagels, a bowl of pasta, 3 glasses of orange juice, etc., etc., etc. And then she wrote, yes, I feel ill. That's a binge.
Mm,
That is a binge. It doesn't always have to be quite that, but it's not, I had, 10 cookies
right.
or four, which I've heard people say, oh my God, I totally binged. I had 4 cookies. No, you did not totally binge. You ate 4 cookies. Maybe you emotionally ate, but that's not binging. Binging is, I can't stop. I hate myself as I'm doing this, but I can't stop. What's like, what's wrong with me? I'm overtaken by this urge. It feels physical. It feels addictive. It feels like a train that's just, and it's unstoppable. That's a
Right.
binge. So, um, overeating is something that we all do, right? Especially on Thanksgiving. Sometimes we overeat. Thanksgiving Day celebrates overeating. You're supposed to eat until you're stuffed. I personally hate Thanksgiving. I never overeat on Thanksgiving. But so every once in a while, maybe we have more than we thought, or we have an extra bite of this or whatever. Overeating is just eating too much, and it doesn't cause us to feel bad about ourselves. We just say, oh, I overdid it. I'll do more at the gym tomorrow, or I'll cut back a little bit. It's no big deal. Binging is that sort of frenzied, impossible to stop feeling of self-loathing as you do it, the shame,
Mhm.
the guilt, the self-hatred, the self-criticism. And it's the urgency, it's the amount. There are times when if there's nothing there, you eat like raw things or even, you know, whatever, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't even matter. It doesn't have to. There's this perception that you only eat things that are good. No, you'll eat things you don't even like because it's there.
Right. 100%. So I feel
100%.
like for me, listening to that email from that person, it's kind of like, if you get it, you get it. Like, you listen to that description, that list, and you either listen to it and you're like, okay, or if you're like me, when I listen to it, I like, in my head, I'm just like, LOL. Like I kind of, I'm just like, yeah, like I get it. Like, it just sounds, it gives me
Yeah.
like an emotional kind of reaction, like, yep, sounds about right. And
Yeah. That's
yeah,
a binge.
like, you kind of, it's in modern terms, like, if you know, you know, type of thing.
Yes. What is it the Supreme Court said about prostitution? We can't define it, but we know it when we see it.
I haven't heard that one, but it makes sense.
Yeah, we know it, or no, pornography. Pornography. We know it when we know it when we see it. Yeah, you
Right.
know it.
It
You
definitely,
know it or you don't know it.
same
Yeah.
thing here. Yeah. 100%. Cool.
So so I just want to make this point, which is that with binging, the main issue is the way you feel about yourself. When
Mm,
you overeat, or even if you a little bit emotionally eat, oh, I had a bad day and I'm gonna have like a cup of ice cream, which that's just eating something you think you shouldn't have, maybe. you don't feel bad. You don't feel necessarily bad about yourself unless you have black and white thinking about food, in which case you'll do all the shoulds and you'll should on yourself and all of that. But binging is, you feel so terrible about yourself and
Self-image.
self-image, self-recrimination, self-hatred, self-criticism, just and so much shame. And it's it's mortifying. Right? It's absolutely mortifying. You can't believe that you can do this. And I've treated so many people who are extremely successful, like really, really top level, top tier people who are very successful. And they'll say to me, why is it that I can go and I can't say what they do, but they like if you heard it, you'd be like, wow, but I can't get a hold of this. Right. And it's like this secret shame of I look so good on the outside. I'm so successful. Many people to other in other areas of my life, in other areas, but this, I can't get a handle on it. What's wrong with me? That sense of what's wrong with me goes along with binging.
Gotcha. Okay. That's a good distinction right there. And that's something that I see a decent amount is people have stuff figured out and the rest of the like there's one person in the group that's coming to mind doing well with their business, they're taking care of stuff in general. And when it comes to binge eating, they're just completely like devastated about it. They've multiple times I've heard, I feel like I've done everything. So to someone that says, I feel like I've done everything, like what would you say to that?
I would like to say this to Oprah Winfrey, who says she's done everything. No, Oprah. You haven't done everything, person, if you haven't dug into the past and recognize why you are binge eating. Because it's not about the past, it's about how the past taught you how to be in the present. And most people who think they've done everything have done the following. They have gone on every diet in America, as one person told me. I see people in Europe and they'll tell me they've gone on every diet in Europe. Like they've dieted, they've counted macros, they've exercised, they've gone on food plans, they've done Noom, they've done Weight Watchers, they've done all of these things only focusing on food. Or they'll do a little bit of therapy, but it's kind of like I think I said last time when we talked, maybe not, but my patient who had um, come to me for psychoanalysis said therapy is like getting a little bit under the surface. It's like snorkeling. You see some cool things, but analysis, which is what I do, I'm an analyst, is like diving to the bottom of the ocean where it's pitch black and you can't
Mm,
see a thing and you've got to shine a light on what the heck is down there. Only by
yep,
doing the deep sea diving, which I love that analogy because you can't do it by yourself. You need someone else to be with you, right? Deep sea divers have to go with somebody else. It's too dangerous to go by yourself. So only by shining a light on what's down in the depths, which is another way of talking about unconscious roots, down in the depths and dealing with that, can you truly heal? Because binge eating is a solution to something internal. It is not the problem. Most people say, I've done everything. They've just done some version of focusing on the problem, plucking a weed, right? It keeps growing back. So you pluck it again. Well, it's gonna keep growing back unless you get to the roots.
I see. And some of the like the plucking, I more common in the group rather than trying different diets or eating more protein. Like we really try to think about like some of the stuff that we've talked about, kind of like the emotions on what was happening before, um, situations like where were you, like what was going on, kind of things that are not about the food.
Good.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's a good start, but sometimes they'll come back and say, "Oh, it worked. That thank you so much," or that was helpful. And sometimes it's like it doesn't work. And so I feel like what you're saying is you still got to do that kind of dirty work of if it keeps on happening, there's still that deep sea diving that has to occur.
So when I shared my story about the milkshake woman, right?
Hmm.
And I told her, you need to have a milkshake every day. And day 4, she's like, I'm so sick of milkshakes. That was not the end of the story. Really, why did she want milkshakes in the first place? Right? What was she trying to escape from? So you could say, oh, I needed comfort or whatever. But if you don't learn how to comfort yourself, or if you have, if you don't learn how to be with yourself in a different way, you will not change. You've got to look at how did you come to organize yourself in this way? And that comes from your history, And so if you don't look at, well, you know, so let me interrupt myself and I keep doing that. No sleep. I do that. So like I've told the story about the when I was at the park and I saw these two little toddlers playing in the
Hmm.
sand, right? And the little boy left and the little girl cried and the mom came running up. Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. Here, have a cookie. So the little girl learns, oh my God, the next time a little dude leaves or something upsets me, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. But oh my God, if I can't stop crying, a cookie will do the trick. So that kid learned that her feelings make other people anxious. Don't do that. Don't cry. Have a cookie. What are some other responses? Other responses are stop crying. What are you crying for? Just get over yourself, right? That's how other people are treated. So that person would learn your feelings make other people mad, so don't have them and get mad at yourself for even having them. And now you're in a toxic relationship with yourself, so you're just telling yourself, "What's wrong?" Oh, okay, I'm going to keep finishing. Hopefully you'll come back in. So you're in a toxic relationship with yourself and you're telling yourself, that there's something wrong with your feelings.
Not sure why that happened again, but we're still recording, so we're good.
Okay. So if you were responded to with like kind of anger, kind of like what's wrong with you, which a lot of boys have are responded to,
Yeah.
right? What's Come on, get like man up, butch up, get over it. Like don't be a girl, don't cry. So what do we learn to tell ourselves? What's wrong with me? Ugh, right?
Right.
And then you
I feel like
escape.
that's such a good sentence, what you just said. If you don't learn how to comfort yourself in a different way, you will not change. It's just so true. And for me, I did not see change with myself until that occurred, until I found another healthy way. Because obviously, I've turned to unhealthy ways, nicotine, like with the nicotine pouches, more caffeine, um, other ways of trying to escape it that are not healthy. But when I found ways to self-soothe and work through my emotional discomfort in a healthy way, that's when everything shifted. And I feel like part of this is like when you tell people this, it's kind of an uncomfortable truth.
Yeah.
A lot of people want a quick fix to something that, really the only seems like the only quick fix these days has been like GLPs, and they don't always work.
Well, and
Um,
it's not a quick fix because it doesn't change how you relate to yourself. And then people have a different then they cope in a different way. But wait, I want to finish the different ways that anxiety, people respond to us with anxiety, people respond to us with anger, people respond to us with dismissiveness, which can come two ways. Like, oh, that's no big deal. What are you so upset about? That's no big deal. Or think positively. It's okay. Like, that's not a big deal because look, other people are, dealing with real issues, some version of that. then we learn to relate to ourselves that way. So really you have to hone in on how do you respond to yourself when you feel something? Where did you learn it? And you have to identify that to be able to unlearn it and learn a new way, right?
Gotcha.
So with GLPs, it's the same as weight loss surgery. When weight loss surgery happened, I would see people who would come to me and they'd say, I lost 100, 200 pounds. And guess what? I've gained half of it back and I'm well on my way to gaining it all back because they never dealt with why they were eating, just what they were eating. So same
Mhm.
with GLPs. Maybe you stop eating, but maybe you start drinking or gambling or whatever, some other addictive behavior. Different weed, same root. So there is no quick fix, but this is, I call my book my method the binge cure, because I absolutely believe in the cure, right? Freud talked about the talking cure. He didn't say, I make the people feel a little better and then, it's just they're just going to deal with their problems the rest of their lives. No, we want a cure. So there is a such thing as a cure, which means you can look forward to waking up and thinking about your day, not your diet, but you got to do the work first. And it's hard, but it's cathartic and it's wonderful because
Mm,
once you're done, you're done.
100%. It is possible. And just a disclaimer for anyone listening, like I have friends that have taken GLPs and have seen a lot of success and their life change. And I'm never going to like knock it and say they shouldn't do this, anyone shouldn't do that. So many people have changed their lives with it. And so
Oh,
if something works for somebody, then I'm all for that.
yes, and many of my patients are on GLPs, but in my experience with GLPs have been around for a little bit, it still doesn't get to the root of why you're eating. So, you know, eventually, if you don't change the way you relate to yourself, yeah, the food noise is gone, yeah, whatever, but eventually if you don't know how to comfort yourself, if you don't know how to respond to yourself, if you don't know how to self-soothe, you might not turn to food anymore, but you're going to turn to something else.
I agree. I mean, just kicking the can down the road, really.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. I just don't want to come off as dogmatic, personally.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
either do I, and I apologize if I did. Like,
no,
I
no,
think they have a place, but
I don't think you did whatsoever.
yeah.
Okay, cool. So the next thing, I want to read a message and kind of like do a little bit of a role play. Like
Mhm.
I'm in a session with you and I'm the one saying this and I want to get kind of your response in real time.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna say to you, I know how I know I'm always saying how bad I feel, and then the next day I come up and I say I binged again. I don't know why I keep doing the thing that's making me sad. If it was anything else, I know I would be able to stop, but I feel like I'm never gonna see food normally. I'm either binging or restricting.
Well, it's hard to see a future that's different when you've only had that experience. But I want to change the definition of success. Success is not that you failed to binge, because I'm not here to take away binging from you. You're using it for some reason. So I'm here to facilitate you giving it up when you can. Um, but right now, let's define success, not that you didn't binge, but that you checked in with yourself and you recognized why. Even if it was later, or if it was during, or if it was before, I don't care if you went, I know I am doing it. F it, I'm doing it anyway. Our success right now is you checking in and noticing your why, because the why is everything. And once we discover what that why is, we can find new ways of learning to relate to yourself differently rather than just white knuckling it and telling yourself you're not going to binge. So I kind of like that you were curious, but instead of I don't know why I do this, how about look at it this way? I don't know why I do this. Why do I do this? Right? Curiosity is going to help you find your way to your why. Focusing on food, it's the solution to the problem. It's not the problem. That trying not to binge isn't going to work for you for long. So let's do this. So if you can identify your why, that's great. What was it? And if you don't know what it is, use my food mood formula.
I love that. Another kind of feeding off of an earlier topic, this just came into my head. The if you don't learn how to comfort yourself in a different way, you will not change. I think a follow-up question someone might have is, okay, then what's a better way to comfort myself?
I'll tell you exactly how to comfort yourself. Here's what most people do. They tell themselves they shouldn't feel something along these lines. One of these, I shouldn't be feeling this way. Positive thinking it away, trying to ignore it, or stuffing it down. Right? So you cannot ignore your feelings, which are just reactions to situations. You can't ignore your feelings. You can, and they're not character flaws, they're just reactions, right? Can't ignore them. You can't positive think them away. You can't drop them. You can't gratitude them away, and you cannot stuff them down. The only thing you can do is respond in this way. Validate, acknowledge, reassure yourself. Give me a feeling, and I'll tell me like pretend you're someone who's having a certain feeling or a certain situation, and I'll demonstrate it. I think that would be really helpful.
Okay, I like that. Um, someone is you just asked me, how are you doing today? And I'm just gonna say, I'm okay. I binged and I'm feeling empty, but I'm all right.
Okay, well, okay is not a feeling, and empty is not a feeling. So, what is the feeling of emptiness? Because sometimes when we are empty, what we really are lacking purpose or meaning. Maybe we're lonely. Maybe we're unfulfilled.
Mm,
You know, something
that's
is going on. So let's say you name the feeling of emptiness, which is, let's say it's loneliness. So how to comfort yourself is to not to say not to do any of the things that I said before that most people try to do. I would say, yeah, of course you're lonely. You're lonely for the following reasons. And also, maybe you're lonely in a room full of people because you don't have the kind of people, the kind of relationships, the kind of connections that you're really craving in your life. And that's really painful and difficult for you. Or maybe you're lonely because you so long to have meaningful relationships and you just don't really have that. So, yeah, of course you're lonely. How could you not be lonely? That is an understandable experience given your situation. And you're doing what you can do to rectify that, even noticing it, even recognizing it. That is a step towards creating change. What can we do about loneliness? We can do two things. We can find ways to fill it with people and connection and fulfillment, not literal fulfillment instead of food. Or
mhm,
we can also turn that loneliness into solitude. Solitude is being with a kind and loving, supportive part of you.
mm,
We can't always do it, but sometimes we can. So, yeah, of course you're lonely. How could you not be? Be proud of yourself for recognizing that and doing the hard work of that. Remember, you have gone through tough times, you have done hard things. And you have the wherewithal to get through this too. Right now, it's hard. It sucks, but it won't always be this way.
I feel like I'm a really good case study for everything that you're saying because you just said the kind of quote that I said was I'm empty. And then you said, okay, unfulfilled and lonely. And those are two things that have helped me improve so much. One, I found something that gets me really excited. I found work that gives me purpose and somewhere to something to work at every day and feels like I'm helping people too, like a North Star, something that even when it's uncomfortable and painful and maybe tedious or whatnot, it's never not worth it. Never. So that's one. And like, I don't know what I would be doing if I didn't have that. Like, I need that. Like, I 100% need that. And maybe that's not everybody, but that's me. And then the second thing is loneliness. And the kind of answer to that for me, it wasn't other people. It was like you were saying, that part of yourself. And so that was kind of my self image and getting more comfortable with myself, getting more comfortable with even being bored and liking myself more. And all of that it wasn't an overnight thing whatsoever. It took a lot of work and a lot of discomfort. And I'm not even saying that to sound boastful or bragful. I'm just being real. Um, so finding something that kind of fired me up and made me excited, even, I'm talking, um, I'm going pretty kind of all over the place, but uh, it's, kind of natural to do that in this kind of situation. But the other day, I was laying in bed and I was like, all right, I really want ice cream. I really want ice cream. I wasn't really hungry. I had just eaten dinner, but I want ice cream. So I asked myself, all right, am I hungry or do I just want like to feel good? And so what I did, or I identified that I just want to feel good. Like I just wanted to have that dopamine, whatever. So I got up, kind of like pretending like I was about to go get the ice cream and literally just sat in my chair and started doing work. And it was fun. And I was like, oh my goodness. Like I just sat down and like chose something else that was fun.
Yeah.
And like if because it's attractive to me. Like I was attracted to doing that. And then I didn't want to go get ice cream. I was like, oh, that's kind of a pain in the ass. I don't want to go get ice cream. Um, and then the loneliness thing, and I'll shut up in a second, but like I don't feel lonely with myself anymore. Um, I don't, I mean,
That's
like,
solitude.
yeah,
That's being able to be with yourself in a way that feels good, as opposed to a critical, combative relationship with yourself, or just not even showing up for yourself.
right. And that definitely helps because if there's no one around me, like I don't have to rely on anybody. I just enjoy my own company. Um, so yeah, just I feel like what you were saying is perfect for what's been going on with me.
Yeah, it's so important to, in your example of I feel empty or I don't know what, I feel okay. Like okay is not a feeling either. And we're used to just being, how are you? I'm fine. How are you? Well, what is it? Fine, fucked up, insecure, neurotic, or emotional, right? We're like, how about are you upset? Are you angry? Are you lonely? Um are you scared? Are you anxious? Or do you feel guilt? Do you feel shame? Do you feel, what is it that's going on? And we live in a culture that says don't have feelings, especially if you're a dude, then you can only be angry. And if you're a woman, you can only be sad. Like you can't be angry. You can't have all kinds of feelings. So women, they get mad at themselves for binging, but they can't be mad at other people. I'm making a gross generalization, but for the
No,
most part, socially.
I see that a lot. I see that a lot.
Yeah, and men can't be vulnerable. So there's so much like so societal undoing that I do in my work to challenge these ideas that society teaches us that keeps us stuck versus embracing our humanity. And our part of our humanity is getting comfortable with, you know, being uncomfortable, just recognizing it as these are signals, they're messages of what we need, what we want, what we don't want
Right.
to help us be our best, like live our best lives and be our best selves. We got to listen instead of ignore.
100%. And this is, I mean, everything that you're saying is what I believe too. And kind of beating a dead horse at this point, but sometimes the reaction to this is just like kind of like eye rolling because it's not sexy. It's like it's kind of the same thing with like getting in shape or going to the gym. It's like, all right, like I want to get ripped and, get bigger biceps. It's like, oh, okay, go to the gym 4 days a week, 5 days a week. It might not always be fun, but go. It's like, like I want it now. I want to nothing worthwhile is just like gonna happen in a blink of an eye.
Yeah, this is a marathon, not a sprint. I think I shared, did I share with you about the woman who said, "How dare you? I'm a food addict." Did I?
Yeah, then she stormed
Yeah.
out.
She stormed out. And that's an example of the eye roll. Like, how dare you suggest that there's that I need to look within. I just need to not eat certain foods. Right? That, and you can do that forever. Or you can say, this is a marathon. And when you train for a marathon, you don't just wake up and run 26.2 miles. You say, okay, I've got to run, half a mile and I don't know how to do this. And this is awkward and painful and difficult but I'm going to keep going. And you want to quit, but you don't. And you just keep going and you keep going. And then you run a mile and you're just like, oh my God. So in this work, the mile is, oh my God, I realized why I was binging.
Mm,
This and you run 2 miles, and the second mile is, you know, wow, I actually caught myself being mean to myself and corrected myself, or I just caught myself being mean to myself and I made myself feel bad, or and so on. And then by the time you get to the finish line, you are recognizing what's going on with you, you're honoring what you're feeling, you're responding to yourself differently. You're more of you're a supportive cheerleader, not a critic, and you feel good about your perfectly imperfect self.
right.
And you
I
cross that
feel
finish line and they're done.
if this was a YouTube kind of um like a YouTube video or like a short video on TikTok, the title of it would be The Uncomfortable Truth No One Wants to Hear. Because kind of the theme here is this stuff is a marathon. It's not easy, but the real work takes time, takes patience with yourself, but is so worth it.
Absolutely. Because if you don't do this work, you are just going to you're not only going to focus on food or diets or weight loss pills or injections or what, not only are you going to do that, but even more importantly, you're never going to have the relationship with yourself and the world that you could. Because if you are hiding parts of yourself and feel it from yourself, you're not living the life you could live. You're not feeling the way you can feel in this world, whatever that is. You're not like it's like the David, and I use that example of Michelangelo, right? Didn't turn the stone into statues, freed the statue from the stone. You know, you got to
Great
chip
example.
away at
Yeah.
what keeps you stuck so you could be your best self, your happiest self, your most authentic self. And you cannot do that if you just stop binging because of a diet temporarily, a GLP-1, a this, a that, or whatever. You're still going to be stuck in the stone.
it's kind of interesting. In a certain point of view, you can almost look at it like, wow, my binging is giving me this amazing opportunity to improve myself and opening the gates of self-improvement. It's,
Yes.
some people will be like, oh, screw that. Like, whatever. I just want to stop binging. But like, maybe if I was never binging or never had um, these sort of, you know, things that I was struggling with, I wouldn't be where, like, how I feel today.
Helping so many people feel understood and recognized and hopeful. Yeah, that's a great reframe. It is a curse, but it is ultimately a gift if you let yourself see what it's trying to lead you to. If you're turning to food, you are turning away from something. What is that something? Because when you identify it and you see what it is and you learn a different way of being with yourself, that changes everything. Your relationship with food, other people, the world, your world. It's very transformative.
I love that. So actually, interestingly enough, I have like 7 or 8 questions from the original list, but I haven't even read one of them. I think it literally taking the 5 or 10 minutes to look through the chat and asking that question. I got one response, which was the one about why is it so hard for some people, etc. I feel like that's given us a better like kind of surface area to chat about these things. So that's been cool to see. The next thing that comes to mind is, and feel free to cut us off when it's time. Um, a post binge kind of journal prompt. I made one. Um, do you have one that you like to share with your clients?
I have 300 of them.
Cool. Well,
No, no, what I tell people is, stop and think. I like acronyms, so I came up with TIER, TIER. Stop and think, identify, and this could be afterwards. Identify why, let's say post binge.
mhm,
Why? And use the food mood formula. So if it was something creamy, that's a sign you need comfort. If it was crunchy, maybe you're frustrated, irritated, angry, enraged, whatever. If it was bulky, maybe you needed, maybe you're feeling lonely or empty, or, people say bored when really they mean lonely or empty usually. Because boredom is fixed by doing something.
right.
If it's candy, maybe you need more sweetness in your life. So just like use the food mood formula. Look at that. What does that tell you? Then express, like, write in your journal, express. Okay, I feel lonely because of this. I feel upset because of that. I feel, just like write it out.
Gotcha.
And it means whatever. And then the last part is R stands for respond, and that is that very acronym I talked about earlier, validate, acknowledge, and reassure. Y stands for yourself. It's all, by the way, in the Binge Cure book.
Some
If I
people
may do some.
are
In the
too
Binge Cure
lazy.
book, you may
Some
find very I came up with tears since I wrote the book. But so after you binge, remember to be curious, not critical, right? Critical is, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Or you talk to yourself in second person, you're such an idiot. How could you do that? No, none of that. Be curious, not critical. Criticism just makes you feel bad and makes you want to binge anyway, to just because you feel bad, because you're making yourself feel bad. Curiosity is, okay, what was going on? What was that about? What was that? So, what was that? Let me stop and think. Huh, this is what I ate. This is the first thing I ate. That tells me I need this or that. That's telling me that what's going on with me. Because we go so fast to the binge, We bypass what's going on. No one's like, I feel really I feel really anxious or lonely. So, you know what? I think I'm gonna now go and eat like a bowl of pasta. People don't say that. They say, I want pasta and then pizza and then maybe some bread and then I want this and then I might as well have some ice cream and then and then you're off your. So what is the first thing you look for? Let that tell you what your emotional need is and then express it and then respond to yourself. If you do that, and you will learn more about yourself and you're going to feel better. And the more you do that, the less that binging is going to work because the next time you go to the kitchen, there's going to be a part of your mind that's going to be like, "Oh, bread. Shit. I must be feeling empty in some way." And now you that's not going to work. Eventually, it doesn't work because you know what you know, and now you are going to respond to that emptiness or that loneliness or that anxiety or that sadness or that whatever it is. You know?
That's a good point. I really like that. While you were talking, it just made me reflect on how beautiful it is to see people that have struggled and have expressed, oh, I binged, I feel XYZ, and then later on, whether it be weeks later, a couple months later, a day later, reflect on the emotional side of it, is whether they binged and they're like, oh, but I'm still positive and I'm like extracting kind of like I'm curious about it overall. And they're just kind of starting to understand like the curious, not critical, and the awareness aspect of it. And it's just like, yes, like you're getting it. Like, and then I had someone like come and they were low key kind of not active for a few weeks, and then all of a sudden they come and they're like, yeah, I haven't binged for a month. And then they did this huge paragraph of like what's been helping, and it was just like, oh my goodness, like that is freaking awesome. The other thing was I've been using the critical, pardon me, curious not critical quote a lot. Is that your quote?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I'll make sure to quote you
I
every
have
time I say it.
that cup. I had all these people used to say when I had my LA Talk radio show, I would say like, you're perfectly imperfect, which is not mine, but I would say, be curious, not critical, or, it's not logical, it's psychological. And people would say, we're, I need like a t-shirt or a cup. So I made, I made cups. Um, so all of those cup things are mine. It's not logical, it's psychological, curious, not critical. And remember, this is not my quote, but I happen to like it a lot. You are perfectly imperfect. This striving for perfection is only going to make you feel bad. And we've all seen the Barbie movie. My God, perfection is so overrated, right? What's
Hey,
perfect anyway?
I've never seen it.
Well, now you don't need to because it has a message of perfection is overrated.
Fair enough. Okay. Another thing is you kind of touched on this, like kind of the eventually it doesn't work and I want bread and the awareness around it. But if I were to like say to you, all right, so if I want something creamy, then I am feeling like this, like that whole concept is BS. Like, what would you respond to that?
So try it. Try it for a week. Look at it like if creamy means comfort in some way. Are you seriously telling me you don't need comfort in your life? Give it a try. Because no matter what, I guarantee you, you're feeling something. We all need comfort. We all sometimes feel lonely or empty or angry or need some more sweetness in our lives. So you may say it's BS. Tell me it's BS after you keep a log for a week.
I love that. And I feel like that I kind of need a certain amount of open-mindedness for all of this. Because when people say, and obviously all of this applies to myself too. But when people say, oh, I've tried everything, it's like, really? Have you tried everything? Like, it's So you've read every single book. You've tried, you've tried this, you've tried that. Like, have you really tried everything? So it takes a certain amount of open mindfulness to try stuff and relentlessness too. Because the amount of times that I binged is crazy. And like, for whatever reason, I would just like keep trying. Like, I'm so happy I did, but like, it wasn't pretty.
No, same. And yeah, you have to be open-minded. Like there was a time when I was just very anti GLP-1s. I've kind of changed my stance on that. I think there's a place for it. It does not replace the inner work, but it can be a good adjunct. It's when people are like, I don't need to look inward. I can just get, weight loss surgery. I can just take a pill or, an injection. That's all I need. No, you're doing yourself a disservice. So I've evolved my ideas on GLP-1s. I think they can be helpful, but they're not the answer in my experience of treating people who've been on them and off of them.
That's wonderful. I respect your open-mindedness and I strive to do the same thing. Just continue to um, listen to people and take into account. Sweet. So I've been chatting for about 53 minutes. How much longer do you want to go?
Why don't we do one more?
One more? Cool.
Yeah.
Well, let me
And you know
browse.
what? It I'm happy to do it again. I actually really like I like your feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm helping people. If I'm through you helping people, that's amazing to me too. So,
Well,
like,
you are. You are. Um, yeah, like I can feel it from you. I know like this lights up your spirit and it doesn't even take effort from you. You love to correct me if I'm wrong, but you love
oh
this.
yeah.
Um, I think a good thing to wrap it up on is, and feel free to say, I'd rather you ask me a question. Like, feel free to say that 100%. But is there anything that off of the top of your head you'd like to share, or a question that you have been seeing that you'd like to answer, or anything? Kind of like a freestyle moment, putting you on the spot here.
I No, I think like the two things that I get asked the most are what do you mean cure? I'm gonna have to deal with this the rest of my life, which we've talked about. No, you don't. And the other one is about nighttime eating, which I think we talked about before. And this it all ties back to everything we've been talking about today, which is, you know, your relationship with yourself. At when you're at night, you're not so busy, you're not so distracted, thoughts can creep in, thinking about food or turning to it keeps those thoughts at bay before you even think them. Like
Wonderful.
like the woman that I shared last time in my very first group with the what's a skinny bitch like you know about binge eating. There was a woman in that group who at the end said, "Hey, the whole time it was no, I just like food too much. I just like food too much. If I could just lose this 20 pounds, I just like food too much." And at the end, she said, "I've been thinking that if I were not thinking about food because I had my it wasn't this Harry Potter magic wand, but it was a magic wand. And I said, if I could take away all your food thoughts, all the food noise is what we'd call it now, what would be
Mhm.
left? No, no, I just like food too much. And finally, she said, actually, I think if you could take away all the food thoughts, I think I'd want to divorce my husband, right? If you're that's an extreme example, but if you're thinking about something all the time, like food, like what you're eating, what you should eat, what you're not eating, what you ate, blah, 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 you're not thinking about what's eating at you.
Mm,
And it's scary to look at what's eating at you, but it's there and it's not going to go away. She did not want to lose 20 pounds. She wanted to lose, 180 pounds, my husband. But it was so scary for her to even think that.
yeah. I mean, so many different messages and thoughts come into my mind, but you just sharing that. But I feel like this is a good place to kind of stop it. I feel like that was a very good conversation. I think people are going to appreciate it and get a lot of value out of it.
Mhm.
And I think if we did a good job, then some people will hate on it.
Yeah, well then, let's hope for that. But
Yeah.
I also think the questions and the what you'd say to a therapist question was very good because so many people think that you go to, and I've heard people who've gone to eating disorder therapists, and what are they talking about? They're talking about freaking food instead of what's eating at them, the hidden part of them. But I thought that was very helpful to kind of do that role play thing, which I think maybe for our next conversation, we could do more of those.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I liked that format better of the role play and kind of just feeding off of the energy rather than just like a list of questions because a lot of them are really redundant and it doesn't give as much tangible advice. So that was great. And we can chat about this further, but maybe would you be open to either doing a group call or kind of like a live stream at some point?
Totally. Yeah,
Cool.
I'd be happy to. Yeah, the questions were good, but it's like about it.
Right.
I'm this is what I'm dealing with is more immediate and like that's how you respond to yourself. Like that's how I respond to people is how I want them to eventually respond to themselves. So that's why it's more powerful.
Way more. Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Let's figure it out. I'll send you the link for this and we'll go from there.
Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, and I'll chat you. So
Okay. Okay.
thank you. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye bye.